Hey, Conscious Habit listeners. My goal is to help support you on your journey of discovering how to live from your highest and most fulfilled self at home and at work. And in that vein, I have some thoughts I'd like to share with you today. So meditate on this. You know that moment where you wake up at 3 a.m. with this dread in your heart and in your head, and you find yourself ruminating on some worry? This episode is for the worriers that we know, whether we are them, whether we live with them, whether we love them, whatever the case may be. If you find yourself in rumination or in worry, I want to break that down for us today. And I feel like we've all had those 3 a.m. thoughts, the ones that wake us up out of a sleep where we're like, oh my gosh, I need to do this. I didn't do that. I've got this presentation today. And it begins to hijack not only our thinking, but our nervous system. And I think that we might tell ourselves that I need to worry in order to better prepare myself. But oftentimes what we're doing is just stealing the joy or the peace that we could be feeling in the present moment. And if we look at why we worry, so worry is really this evolutionary, biological way that we keep ourselves safe. It's a way that we, can anticipate what is to come, potential danger. It's a way of us for scanning our lives for survival. But in the modern day, most of our worries do not equate death. Most of our worries are not really life-threatening, but our nervous system doesn't know that, which is why we get stuck in that constant rumination that we've talked about. And if we think about it, let's break it down. Worry is really an attempt to control the uncontrollable. That's why we worry. It's our brain's way of trying to prepare us for what might happen. And it's like our mind is playing chess against itself, right? There is no other opponent but us. And the biggest challenge is that we end up worrying about things that either A, never happen, or B, they happen so differently than we imagine. And we spend a ton of energy solving problems that likely never exist. If any of our coaching clients are listening to this right now, you're probably shaking your head like, yes, Amy's given me this advice before. Why are we trying to solve problems that don't exist? Because it's common. My hope is that you come back to this episode when you find yourself in worry or rumination. You share it with somebody that you may know that experiences this too, and that my future self also remembers this episode and we come back to it and we listen to it when we need it the most. So we know why we worry, right? It is this biological thing. It's a habit that often we might create. We may have a habit loop of worrying. It doesn't make us good, bad, right, or wrong. It's just helpful to acknowledge that I have a habit of worrying. When something goes wrong, my body and brain's way of dealing with that is to move into constant rumination. Okay, that's really helpful. There may be times that worry is valuable to you. There's times that it might be trying to kind of grab your attention or force you to take a deeper look at something. But when it becomes that deep space of just, over and over and in and out and chasing our tail, then we know that it's draining energy and it's really probably pushing us into anxiety, and it's not super helpful. So even though worry isn't bad, it can be a nudge, for us to pay attention to. If it's constant rehearsal and it's not going anywhere, it's like we get ourselves stuck in that mental quicksand. So what do? If we find ourselves in this state of worry, stress thinking, anxiety, there's 4 steps I'm going to encourage you to take. Pause, ask, shift, redirect. So if you notice yourself spinning, it's good to pause and notice that. Oh, okay, I'm in this worry loop right now. I'm in this space of rumination. So acknowledging with a pause where it is that you are. And then ask, Is this a problem I can solve right now? What can I do with this? Let's say it is a problem you can solve right now. If you are in a state of worry, then you take the first tiny baby step towards solving it. You would just ask yourself that. What is one step right now that I could take that would help alleviate this fear or this worry? But oftentimes the answer is no, because we may be ruminating on something that happened 5 minutes ago, an hour ago, a day ago. Maybe it's something we anticipate happening. And so we're stuck in anticipation mode. And so it's not something we can solve right now in this moment. And if that's the case, then we're going to work on shifting and redirecting. So first, we shift our attention. Maybe you get up and take a walk. Shifting your state creates a pattern interrupt that helps shift our thinking as well. So maybe we get up and take a walk. We go to the gym. We get a workout in. We just move to our breathing even. We take some slow, deep breaths to send that signal to our nervous system that we are not in danger, that we are okay. Whatever it is, making that shift can help shift our state. And then we're working to redirect our attention. And we're redirecting our attention to the present moment, just like what is true right now, because rumination is dealing with a future or past place. It's not what's true right now in this moment. And so again, back to maybe it's taking breaths. Maybe it's just noticing what's around you, really anchoring yourself in what you're seeing, anchoring yourself in your body with what you're feeling. Maybe you go to the sound and, what am I hearing around me? So these are helpful states, and repeat these as often as you need to. One kind of, movement through that may not be enough. You may have to continue to practice that over and over again. And what we're doing is teaching our nervous system, teaching that hardwiring in our mind that is set to worry. We're teaching it how to come back to calm. We're teaching it how to more quickly get out of that rumination. So again, those steps: pause, ask, shift, and redirect. And I think it's helpful when we find ourselves in these spaces to move to some good mental shifts. What are ways that we can shift the current state that we're in and what we're worrying about? So if you are in the what's the worst case scenario, what's the worst that could happen loop, ask yourself, what is the best that could happen? What is the greatest outcome that could come from this? And allow yourself to ruminate on that. Or if it's something, in the past that's happened and you're just really frustrated and maybe you feel taken advantage of, you're angry, whatever the case might be, you find yourself really stuck in that emotion and in that situation that's already past you, to go back and say, what was the blessing? What's the gift I'm getting from this situation, so that we can stop the BMW driving, which stands for bitching, moaning, and whining, thanks to Cy Wakeman. Love that phrase. But we can have our brain have a new problem to solve. That's really what we're trying to do here. And asking ourselves that, like, what's the greatest good that can come of this? I get to choose what I carry around today. What do I want to choose? What state do I more desire to be in? Shifting ourselves to some of those questions can be incredibly helpful. And I think when our mind tries to drag us into that what if, right, get a mantra to anchor through. Like, this thought means nothing. Like that's a helpful one. This thought doesn't have to mean anything. Like, I'm, creating this thought, or I'm suffering imagined troubles right now. Another phrase I remember hearing, I think it may have been Marianne Williamson who mentioned it, where she said, worrying is like praying for trouble. And just to be like, oh, I choose not to pray for trouble. I'm going to pray for the good. What would that look like? That can be incredibly helpful in getting us out of that state of worry, fear, anxiety, and rumination. So let's do a little exercise together. If you're in a space where you're able to follow along, just close your eyes. Take a couple of big, deep breaths in through the nose first, and exhaling through the mouth. Another nice, deep cleansing breath, inhaling and filling the belly first, and then exhaling through the mouth. First, I want to encourage you to just connect with what is happening in your body. We're anchoring our presence through our breathing, but also through just noticing the sensations. Can you feel your feet on the floor, your bottom in the chair, maybe the clothing on your skin? And then moving up to the mind, what is that fear, that worry, or that concern? Just notice it. And if you can be aware that you are the noticer, noticing the worry, you're practicing metacognition. And this allows us not to become prisoners to our own thoughts. And whatever that fear, worry, or concern is, I want you to imagine that it's being swallowed up by a balloon. You slowly imagine whatever the scene is you're rehearsing, whatever the fear is you're ruminating in, is fully encapsulated by this giant red balloon. And I want you to let it go and notice the fear and worries float away, slowly becoming further and further from you. And now, what would you rather replace it with? What is that affirmation of good, of abundance, of hope and faith that you would rather bring to light? And whatever that best case scenario is, notice how it starts to shift those feelings in your body. Do become lighter. Do become more peaceful. Notice the physical effects that it begins to have. And when you feel ready, you can wiggle fingers and toes and slowly flutter open the eyes. What I hope you walk away with is that worry does not have to be the enemy. When it creeps up, we can notice it. We can practice some of these shifts. We can even close our eyes and allow it to float away and invite in a new feeling in the body. At any given moment, we have a chance to practice some of these conscious habits.